There we go. Okay. So as you guys can see, this week's video is on is called Busy Week, right? For from last week, I was trying to decide what is it that I'm going to speak on the next week. I know for a while it's kind of just been this is the definition of this, and this is how this works, right? And it's even though I've been trying to relate it to what's currently going on, but it's almost like a textbook. And during this week, there were some things that came out in the news that I think was pretty relevant to all of us. And even though I'm not necessarily saying go and buy this stock or go and buy that stock, I wanted you guys to at least see, like, when these news come out, what are some of the questions that you can start to ask, start to research on your own, and those type of things that would really help you with your overall investments. And if time is permitting, which I think time should be permitting, there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about that it was me and some co-workers, we were just kind of bouncing off some ideas. And then I was like, I had a eureka moment. I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty good idea. So I wanted to talk on that this week too. So this week is going to be kind of a little break away from the half an hour just on essentially one topic. All right. If you hear me cough, I'm kind of getting over a cold, but if I'm talking, maybe I shouldn't cough as much. All right. So let's get into it. So busy week. All right. What happened this week? Well, one of the things that have been in the spotlight is that many of the US companies, especially the US banks, have been drastically increasing their compensations, whether it's direct money payments or 401ks and those type of things, in order to attract workers to come back. Because when a lot of the workers got laid off, between them receiving stimulus or them essentially, a lot of them actually took on projects like YouTube and other things that started to bring in another income. And so they were kind of like, I don't necessarily want to go back to that job. I never really liked that job to begin with. I was just in it just so I could pay the bills. So some of the companies now are feeling it. And so they realize that they have to now do different things to try and attract the workers to come back to them. And one of the things they've been doing is really increasing wages. So that was one thing. The other thing, the Senate, there was a proposed amendment to the tax on cryptocurrency, right? And that amendment failed. The crypto lobbyists, they failed. And so that has implications. Don't know how the implications will be for the small man, but we know that everything tends to be a trickle-down event. So we'll talk a little bit on that. Then lastly, the other big thing is Bank of Jamaica issues its own digital currency, right? And that's pretty big news. They've been saying that they were going to do it for quite a while, and they went ahead and they rolled out essentially phase one. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. All right. So US companies increasing wages, right? What's the implications? Now, this is some of the things that we've spoken about before. Two things get impact: foreign currency and inflation, right? One of the things is how does it impact foreign currency? Well, one of the things that we realized last week was that relative incomes, when relative real wages increases, the demand for another country's currency tends to come more into play, and the local currency tends to fall. As I said, you see that a lot more if real wages grows in Jamaica, because if real wages grow in Jamaica, They tend to do more online ordering, they tend to travel more and those things. So the demand is mostly for foreign currency. While in the US, you will still find that. You may find it on a lower scale, but you'll still find it, right? People are still they're going to travel more, right? And they're going to book their flights to Jamaica, spend time in Jamaica. They're going to do all of those things. So the demand won't be so much for the US dollar as it would be for it to be converted into Jamaican dollars, okay? So that is how the impact on that comes into play. The other thing is, as these companies are saying, oh, we're going to increase your wages. We're going to increase your wages. Now, is that a cost that they're really going to absorb? No, they're not, right? They're not going to absorb that cost, okay? They're going to pass that cost on to the end user, right? Now, passing that cost on to the end user increases the price. And one of the things we spoke about is CPI, which is the increase in price of your household items. So if the companies that are producing the household items are increasing the salaries of their workers, the cost of those items are going to increase, okay? And that is what is called the cost push inflation, okay? Remember, there was demand pull, now cost push, right? So as the cost increases, they're going to push up the price, which in turn pushes up inflation, okay? So when you see these companies doing that and they're like, oh, this is great and this is great, realize it's going to impact you. And if you are not one of those whose salary has been drastically increased, your actual purchasing power is about to decrease, okay? So as I said, this is one of the things that came out in the news, and once it came out in the news, that was one of the first things that popped up in my head, all right? What else came out in the news? Well, Senate fails to pass amendment to crypto tax provision. Wow, seems long. The words on the screen seems much longer. What it's really saying is the US government has a definition for crypto brokers, and crypto brokers, they have to essentially remit taxes, right? That is why a lot of the brokers and those things, you see them collecting more information from you, asking for your ID, asking for your address and those things, because they need it in order to remit taxes to the government. Well, underneath that, they didn't just say broker like Coinbase or Binance. They were very vague in it. And so it also ended up including crypto miners, right? Now, why is that so big? Well, crypto miners, these are the guys who have the whole bunch of servers, right? And it's essentially a lot of the computers that are on the blockchain. What the current situation would stand is for all of the crypto miners and the validators, they would somehow have to track the taxes incurred on that to remit over to the government. Now, this is thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions that's going through. Because remember, unlike your credit card or anything that is going through one place, these things are traveling on networks of multitudes of computers. And so it is now what it's saying is that they now need to try and find a way to tag each transaction to determine the tax implications on that. That seems like a very big undertaking. And even the crypto community is all up in arms because it does seem like a very big undertaking. Some of them say that it's impossible. They don't know how it's going to actually work out. how is it going to be enforced? Now, what does that mean for you and me? One, it could mean increased barriers to entry later on down the road. It could mean that we now have to provide even more information to the brokers. It could mean that when we're filing taxes, we have to itemize our crypto transactions in order to pay the tax on it. So that's pretty big news. And the crypto world now has to go down to the House of Representatives to try and fight that. But that is why that made such big news. All right. Now, yeah, the other thing they're also saying is this kind of goes against why people went into crypto. Remember, one of the things that we said when we had discussed crypto was that everyone loved it because it was decentralized, right? Because it was decentralized. There was like no central bank, no single governing body, right? Transactions were able to spread along the blockchain or along these different networks and be validated independently of any single unit. Now, what this now is doing is that it is essentially being a single regulator on something that was never created to be regulated, right? The crypto market was meant to be regulated and governed by each individual, not by a single government. And so a lot of them are saying that that's kind of going against the privacy rights of why crypto was created, right? That's why they call it crypto. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing. All right. The Jamaican bank plans to issue a total of 1.2 million of CBDC, say that 10 times fast, to institutions and authorized payment service providers as part of a pilot ending this December. Okay, what is a CBDC? CBDC is a digital currency that is created by and governed by the central bank to work and use to work with the fiat. Now, what's fiat currency? Your paper money, okay? It is just a virtual form of that same money, okay? Are CBDCs the same as cryptocurrency? No. Remember, in the last news, what got them all upset is not supposed to be governed, it's decentralized. It's not supposed to be governed by any one unit. CBDC is governed by one unit. The same agency that goes ahead and governs the currency, so the central bank that governs your typical paper money, will also govern the virtual money, okay? Now, a couple questions. What's the impact of this? Sorry. What's the impact of this to Jamaicans? Well, my opinion is going to be a slow growth. You're going to find the younger people quick to say, okay, let's do this. You're going to have the older generation that's going to be very untrusting of this. You're going to find a lot of conspiracy theories that's going to be going out all of a sudden. This is the government trying to spy on you and all of those type of things. So between the very young people saying, okay, we'll give it a try. The older people, I'll say the baby boomer age, the older people saying, I don't trust this. I just got used to the ATM and you're giving me a digital currency. And the others that just going to just make up stuff, going to say, oh, digital, this is some grand master plan by the government of Jamaica to watch over us. Yes, yes, yes. Craziness. So I think it's going to be slow going. All right. But because something is slow going doesn't mean that you mustn't do it. Right. So you still do it, as long as you know it's going to be slow going, and I really hope they stick with it. Do we have the adequate infrastructure to make it successful? Well, considering that I've been having issues with Digicel for quite a bit, right? And I'm not trying to run any virtual currency, that could be kind of an issue, right? So one is, can the current telecommunication providers, right, our ISPs, Flow and Digicel, handle that amount of traffic that is about to flow over it? Can they handle that, right? Also, if Digicel is having issues while I'm trying to make a payment at the cashier, is my payment going to go through? Is it going to get stuck out there in limbo where they haven't received their payment, but then I don't have the cash anymore? You know, I think they need to work on the reliability of the telecommunication providers, right? Now, the banks themselves, right? In Jamaica, almost on the 25th and 26th of every month, Scotia cards don't work, right? You can go to almost any machine and all of a sudden you'll hear the cashier saying, oh, is that a Scotia card? Yeah, oh, Scotia cards don't work, right? No. Can the bank networks handle this, right? And are the employees going to be adequately trained on this? So if I walk into a bank and I say, look, I want to go ahead and make a withdrawal, and I say I have it in virtual currency, will they understand what I mean by that? Right? Are they going to look at me like they're in headlights, like they don't know what's going on? And then all of a sudden say, sir, you're going to have to go ahead and go over to customer service, right? These are things that's why I say this could be slow going, right? But this is a bombshell for a place that's not a bombshell place, right? So I hope they just go ahead, everybody just work with them. There are going to be glitches, a lot of glitches. There's going to be the attitudes, there are going to be people cussing it out, but just stick with it. In the end, I think it will work out good, because I'm a main supporter of killing fiat currency. I don't like paper money. I don't walk with paper money. So anything at all to digitize my money, I'm all for it. All right. So that was really the three main things in the news this week, right? And as I said, I just wanted to highlight them. So when you're watching the news and these things happen, what we talk about in these discussions is not to be kept in isolation. Use what talk about in these discussions to look at it and think of it very critically, right? Don't just take everything at face value. Ask those same questions like what I asked. What's the impact? How are they going to do this? And really think of it critically. All right. Now, yes, I have enough time to touch on this. So a coworker and I was talking, and we were saying, I think one thing that would work is pooled investments, right? And we're like, what is pooled investments? I said, perfect. Let's go research what's pooled investments, right? Pooled investments is just a group of people pooling their money together to invest. That's it. Group of people just come together, say, let's all put our money together and we're going to invest it. Boom, pooled investment. It sounds real big and they make it sound very nice and fascinating right here. Funds in a portfolio from many individual investors that are aggregated for the purpose of investment. A bunch of people come together, put their money together to do it. It's like if you go ahead and you go to the bar and you say, you know what, we want to buy a bottle. You can buy a bottle. We all can buy a bottle. Let's pool our funds and buy a bottle. You just did a pool investment. I mean, it wasn't a bottle of liquor, but it was a pool investment, right? Let's just hope that you enjoy the investment at the end of the night. I know I would, right? So that's what a pooled investment is. What's the advantage of a pooled investment? A pooled investment, the advantage of a pooled investment is that you have now the collective, you have the purchasing power of the collective, okay? Think of it this way. Everybody wants to go ahead and buy shares in Amazon, Google, right? Sounds real nice. Tesla, sounds perfect. Have you seen the price of those shares, right? I think Amazon shares is over $3,000 for one share, okay? If you, here in Jamaica, Palace Amusement, over $1,000 for one share, right? That, if you're trying to do that on your own, that investment might seem out of reach, right? I know I don't have the $3,000 to just go and purchase just one share Amazon, right? That's my entire portfolio. So if Amazon stock go down tomorrow, oh well, I just went down. What? Right? So what do? You go ahead and so when you have the power, if you have 10 people behind you, now Amazon shares don't seem that far out of reach, right? You can split up the price of the Amazon shares amongst the 10 people. So now it's at $300 per share, right? Instead of $3,000 per share, okay? So that's why pooled investments are so, can be very lucrative. Now, how do you make pooled investments work, right? Now, here is my take. I don't know if anybody has any other take, but here's my take, right? One, go ahead, determine who you're going to work with. Is it going to be a bunch of your coworkers? Is it going to be a bunch of your friends? Is it going to be your family? Determine who is going to be your pool, right? Once you've determined your pool, you now determine how much is in your pool, right? Cool. The next thing, what are you going to invest in? Are you going to do pooled funds to invest in crypto, like buy a bunch of Bitcoin, right? Are you going to do real estate, either purchase real estate or going to real estate funds, right? Or are you going to go ahead and buy individual investments, stocks, shares, right? That's the next thing you need to determine, right? So you have your pool, you know what you're going to invest in. Cool. The next thing I would say is to nominate a fund manager, right? And a treasurer. They have two different roles. The fund manager, he is the one being the liaison between what you guys want to the actual broker, right? So if you have a fund manager at let's say JMMB, or you're dealing with E-Trade, or any of those, the fund, you nominate a single person that is now going to go in there and say, look, we want to put our investment in this, our investment in that, and those things, right? So try and pick the person out of the bunch that kind of knows more about investments, right? The other thing is the treasurer. The fund manager might not be a good treasurer. I'm a horrible treasurer, right? The treasurer now is the one who's going to collect the funds, right, from everybody and remit it to the bank. That's it. That's all the treasurer does. Make sure everybody pay, remit it off to the bank. Done. Okay? That's the treasurer. Now, Once you've done that, so you have your group, you know what you're investing in, you have your fund manager, you have your treasurer. Cool. The next thing you need to determine is how long before we start pulling our money out, right? Now we know investments don't give you a return that same night, right? It's not a buy rich, get rich. Buy get rich scheme. It's not a get rich scheme, right? So it's going to have to be in there for a while before you really start seeing your returns, right? So you need to decide as a group, okay, we're going to keep putting in with the agreement that there's nothing that's going to get removed for the next 3 or 4, 5 years down the road. So you have that agreement in place, okay? Once that is done, the last thing, determine the ratio of each contributor to the overall value of the fund, okay? What that means, if everybody's putting in the exact same amount, then okay, it's split evenly, right? Now, what if in the middle of it, somebody goes ahead and comes through Big Willie style and say, I want to go ahead and I want to increase my thing another 15%. Does that mean everybody else have to increase 15%? No, but their percentage of what they contribute to the overall portfolio will now increase. So when it comes time to pay out, their percentage of what is paid out to them will now increase, okay? And it's for the fund manager and the treasurer to keep track of that, all right? So there we go. That is how I say set up pooled funds, all right? Pooled investments. What's the disadvantage? Distrust, right? People don't trust each other, right? Somebody thieving the money, right? Some way, some down the road, there's some money that you know you put in and you don't understand, and the money gone. Somebody just stole your money, right? Difference of opinion. The portfolio, they said you would go ahead and make a return of 10% by the end of the year. All of a sudden, you made a return of 7%. Oh, it's because the fund manager don't know what he's doing. He really should have went ahead and going to this share right here. I knew that company was going to do better. I can do things better than him. That can mess it up. Miscommunication of the agreement, right? You said you're not going to pull out for the next 5 years. 6 months down the road, someone come and somebody's like, oh, I have school fee to pay. I need to go ahead and pull out money. And you're like, money not supposed to come out yet. What? You can't tell me nothing. It's my money in there. We had this agreement. Boom, mash up. And again, distrust. Somebody says, somebody stole my money. I put in X amount and those things. So that's usually what messes it up, right? Other than that, I think pooled investments is a fantastic idea, right? So that's my 2 cents. All right. So this week it had a lot to do with more of my opinion. I know many times I do give my opinion on things, but I usually try and keep it a lot more fact-based rather than IMO, which is in my opinion, right? And more by the book. But I really, as I said, these were things that I was just thinking about. And every time I tried to think of like a textbook type topic, these items came up in my head. So I said, let me go ahead and use this session and share it with everybody so they know, they can get an idea of what is it that I think about when I'm looking at the news and why sometimes the news is very exciting to me. All right. So thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for watching. I still see the views on my videos going up. I really appreciate it. I know that some of you are sharing my channel with others. I encourage that. Keep it going, keep it growing. All right. And I will see you guys next week.